NAMIC Atlanta family. Welcome to our latest edition of Coffee Talk. I'm your host, Charles Neal, and today we are honored to have Kia Painter, Executive Vice President and Chief People Officer over at Cox Communications. Welcome, Kia. How's it going? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Charles. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Listen, I see that we have a new outlook on life, all reflected in all aspects of us.
That's right. Got to change it up.
It looks good. The change up is great.
Hey.
So, Kia, first of all, EVP and Chief People Officer, it is official. We're good to go saying, hey, this is the new face of for Cox Communication.
Yes, I am here. I've arrived.
Okay, I'm not mad at that, but Kia, you're a bit of a unicorn right now. In this day and age, having somebody work at a company for 25 years, we know you started at 5 years old, so I don't even understand how you got the job, but for 25 years, 5 years right now is considered a long time being at any company in this day and age, right? What was that staying power that you had? And just as importantly, if I flip it, how did Cox keep on revitalizing their efforts towards you? Because obviously being able to grow to the Executive Vice President and Chief People Officer says that you had the skill, the knowledge, et cetera, to rise. And so how were they able to keep you for 25 years where other companies may have come in and said, no, we have this for you, we can do that for you?
Yeah, so, Charles, I am very fortunate, first of all. So I'll answer it first with how did I sort of navigate? Because you're right. It is sort of unheard of these days to see people with, quarter of a century of tenure with the same company. And, my journey starting at the very front line of our organization and being able to architect a path to an executive role has been fantastic. I have to, though, credit that from a company perspective to Cox is a great place to work just in terms of the family's focus on community, how they value people. People are always a filter in any kind of decision that we're making. And I've also been very fortunate along the way to consistently have leaders who saw something in me, wanted to make that investment, and would pour things into me. So I feel like I have been very fortunate because I've had that journey. And then from my perspective, I think to be able to navigate, first, you just have to know what you want to do, not necessarily what the job is. But for me, knowing what I wanted to do was, I want to be in service to people. I want to do a job that helps me impact people's lives, but I want to do it in corporate America. So I knew where I wanted to do it and I knew what I wanted to do. Wasn't always necessarily sure what the job was, but I knew that's what I wanted to do. And then once I landed at Cox and I moved into HR and I'm like, yeah, this is kind of my jam. I can help people figure out careers. I remember I started making job offers to field technicians. That was my job. And then I would do reception when on break. So I was part-time. So I would do my little 4 hours, a couple of hours. I'm giving people opportunities to come in as technicians or come work in our call center. And then I would go and greet customers at the reception desk. That's how I started at Cox. And then I figured out I really just something about telling someone who wanted a new opportunity that they could come into our company and grow a career and be that person who was a part of that exchange. I still have technicians who I hired 25 years ago who will say, KP, I'm still here. Now I'm a construction manager. Thank you for giving me my shot. That is to me what making a difference is. And that's why I wanted to stay at Cox and continue to build my career as an HR executive.
So we've known each other for a while. And I've heard you speak enough times about Mom. I have a vague understanding of how May Douglas, current May Douglas Award winner sitting here, I forgot, how May Douglas impacted you. Karen Bennett as well. And you've talked about Mark Graytrix, the president for Cox Communication as well. What was the impact that they had on you in your journey? I'm gonna be quiet and let you go ahead because
Yeah, sure. So listen, it's nothing like good parenting. My mom, that's my girl. That's, if there was any doubt about how my life could be great, she never let me sit with that doubt for long. She always created opportunities for my brother and I. She and my dad, as a matter of fact. My dad just happened to have passed away a couple 20 years ago. And so she's still here. Even as I've grown my career, she has always been one to build a foundation of service to other people. And so that's really a part of my swag, even as an executive. I will continue to work hard, but she always instilled in me, it's not about you, it's
Mhm.
about how you help everybody else around you. That's the true marks of success. And that's what our family is about. So having that foundation from my mom has been amazing, and it's worked well trying to be someone who helps connect people to different opportunities. So that's my mom. Then you have May Douglas. We always talk about being able to see what is possible. And remember, like I said, I didn't know I necessarily wanted to be head of HR when I started at Cox. And I really didn't know I
Say it
wanted to
again.
do it until I saw this, you know, beautiful Black woman just roll up in our hallway, and she was dressed to the nines. And
Mm.
I remember saying I said, what's that lady? And I was like so enamored. And they were like, that is May Douglas, Chief People Officer. And I was like, Chief People? What? And they were like, yes, she works for the president. This is what she does. She makes sure it is great for all of us to work here. And I literally said to my peer, we were sitting in the cubicles, I said, I want to be that lady when I grow up. That's what I said. And so I sort of spoke it into existence. And granted, I was being cheeky at the time. I was like 26. So I'm being, playful. And I'm like, but something, just putting it out in the universe and then making a decision. Gosh, she's so inspiring. I do want to be her when I grow up. So I'm going to get after it. So that's how May was so impactful for me. And she just had such great influence with different executives. When she spoke, people stopped and listened, and she made an impact. So she will always be one of my heroes. And I sit here today because of her very existence as the former chief people officer for Cox Communications. Then there's Karen Bennett. Everybody needs allies. Everybody needs good bosses. And everyone needs leaders who are just astute at succession planning. Succession planning is so important. You hear a lot of companies talk about it, but Karen is one of those I'm going to be about it kind of executives. And what's great about Karen Bennett is she's not just known for building chief people officers in the Cox family of companies. This is something she has done throughout her career at different organizations. There have been several people who've had the privilege of working under her tutelage that have gone on to be chief people officers. She knows how to succession plan and ensure that you are getting the development, the right experiences, the right exposure, and most importantly, the right feedback. Because sometimes, look, we all think we're great. We all think we're out here doing the thing. And Karen will tell you, woo, woo, woo,
Hear
this is
that
what you
not.
got to work on. This could be a derailer for you. If you're not aware, you need to know this. And it was so great because she allowed me to own it. And then I could take action. I could decide to make those changes so I could continue to step towards my dreams. That is what I love about Karen Bennett. And that's why it was so fantastic to work for her. And then you have Mark Greatrex. Listen, somebody's got to open the door to let you in. And Mark has certainly opened that door for me. But it didn't just start with this opportunity. When, Mark joined our company like probably about a decade ago. And when he came in, I was one of the first HR people assigned to one of his business transformation efforts. And at the time, I was really young. I was like mid 30s. And what he did for me and what he does for a lot of young people building their career is prop them up, let them know that they are seen, and talk about them to others so that others can want to see them. And I remember, I still have the message. I actually keep it posted on my credenza, where one of our marketing managers who worked in our Macon market said, "Hey, Kia, out of the blue, I just want to let you know, Mark Greatrex was at our dinner last night. And he said, do you know Kia Painter? She's such a wise young woman, well beyond her years." I printed that email out. I know we're supposed to be, conscious of, the environment stuff, but I printed that one off and I carry it to this day. She sent that to me in 2012. And within a decade, he helped me step into my dreams.
Yeah.
And that's why I appreciate Mark Richard.
Have you ever showed him that?
No, he doesn't know that I have it. And I can't, sometimes he I don't know that he knows that I have it, but
he knows now.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, I carry it around if you want to know. But yeah, that's what I appreciate. And that's what being a leader is about. And honestly, I think that's why I've stayed here so long. People at this company work hard to lead people, not just lead the business, not just lead the financials, but to lead people, because we power our communities based on people. So yeah, I love Mark.
You touched on so many points, but two, I still stick with me. One is what you just mentioned with the leadership, but the first one, representation matters. So people ask, Charles, why, when did you come up with this? Why, et cetera? And I'm like, it's a few reasons. I'll say for myself, because it's more personal than not. But when individuals have an opportunity to see senior executive leaders or leaders of any scale, nowadays, I guess streaming or on screen or in person, because we don't have in-person events, etc., that gives them access to individuals that look like them, right? And NAMIC is multicultural. So, we have leaders from various backgrounds, but you have to be able to see those individuals. Even at this day, in this day and time, you have to be able to see it, to vision it, to say, okay, now I want to aspire. And that's because that's what happened with you. And so when I talk to individuals today and they're like, where does the passion come from? I'm like, we still have a long journey to go through, because the boards aren't 50-50 gender. The diversity on them aren't at a level that you can say makes sense for a company of various scales. And so when you have individuals who are coming in early, career individuals coming in, and they don't see leaders past a certain level in the funnel, they're like, well, I know my journey stops here because I have a concrete ceiling, right? But now we are able to say, nope, get the chisel out, make it a glass ceiling, get the chisel out again, smash that. Now we just have access to. And so I thank you for sharing those stories. Leadership is just a hard one, because a lot of I've seen I'm older than I look, right? I've seen throughout time individuals who think that leadership is a post that says do XYZ for me all day, every day, and don't understand, I hate the statement, don't bring me problems. I'm like, well, part of your job is to help resolve problems. If they only brought you solutions, you're really, outside of visioning and direction, you made yourself obsolete. And so, there's a lot of leadership training that can be had out there. But that brings me to a different conversation point, right? Economy is I'm looking at CNBC over here, right? The economy is railing a little. People think recession, even if it's a light recession, is coming. Companies are impacted, and we see the effects across multiple industries, right? Being a chief people officer, you've been in 25 years in the game. You've seen the ebbs and flows of. And so if you look to say, here are best practices for people who are seeking jobs, A, how would you, what advice would you give them? But B, the flip side of that is, for those who are responsible for hiring, I don't know sometimes if people understand that the responsibility that's on their shoulders, right? Because A, you want to get rid of the biases and say, okay, I'm going to get as diverse as I can in terms of my hiring practice. But B, the impact to the bottom line, right? Revenues are impacted in terms of, if you don't get the right individual, are you growing and scaling accordingly, but also saving the bottom line on the expense side, right? And so what's your best practices for those who are seeking, but also for those who have the responsibility of hiring?
Sure. So let me start with those that are seeking. So for those that are seeking, I will tell you, and listen, I will own it, because sometimes I'm bad about this. but you need to build relationships before you actually need them. And
Mm.
so, even if you are not seeking yet, you might be. And for those that are seeking, it's so important to have that viable network of people that you can tap into, because sometimes those people are aware of opportunities that are not even posted yet, or new business opportunities that may be coming up, and you just want to be situated so that people are talking about you. So networking is important, but it's not just who you know, it's also how you've supported, how you've connected. And so what I mean by that, oftentimes I'll see people, oh, I know, 100 people. Well, if there's not been a level of reciprocity and connection, meaning, you've been able to support them in some kind of way, maybe you've volunteered to do something for them, or, you've mentored them, or, you've provided them access. You have to make sure your network is live and thriving and not just sort of static, because when those opportunities come up, those people are connecting with people they have those relationships with. So definitely build relationships before you need them. The other thing is just stay resilient and stay confident. It can be tough sometimes if you are seeking opportunities, maybe something isn't panning out, but continue to stay in the game. Focus on your capabilities, and then also think about expanding how you perceive what you can do. Oftentimes I'll see people and they say, well, I'm not going to go for that because I
Mhm.
don't have uh 20 of the 22 bullets on the job description. Well, sometimes things are preferred, and sometimes you have transportable skills that give you capabilities to do the role. And so also continue to think about, if you're seeking opportunities, how you might even expand what you might be going after, because you could land up in a new opportunity that you hadn't considered, and it be the opportunity of your
Yeah.
dreams. You're working with great people, you're learning. So I would offer advice to do that. Always keep your information current. Like, the worst thing is to have to, like, I think about people with a lot of tenure that have been in a role, and they don't update their resume or their LinkedIn, and now you're sort of rushing to try to do it. Sometimes those things are your ticket to entry, and so be working on that all the time. Like, I try to make a point after every performance review to go back and, okay, let me update my CV just to make sure I'm pulling these things out. Because it's just a way to alleviate stress. Because when you are seeking a role, you are really trying to land that opportunity. So let that be the focus.
Yeah.
So those are my tips about, just how to ready yourself if you're seeking opportunities. And then for those that are having to hire, what I always encourage hiring managers are a couple of things, particularly from a diversity and inclusion. And it's not always just about some of our demographic differences. It's also about, are you hiring people that can level you up because
Mm.
they know something you
Mm.
don't know? I look for, like, people know about me in this math game. Like, I had to take a whole new job just to make sure I was building my skill. But at the same time, I went and hired people who were statisticians because I knew they would level me up and I would learn from them. And so I always encourage hiring managers, look for people who can help you learn some new things while you are also helping to develop them, empower their careers. So also look for people, like, oftentimes we're like, okay, they need to have this specific experience. But just like for people seeking roles, sometimes we call things different things in different industries, and you may miss out on talent because you're so, like, myopically focused on it has to be the way we call it in a connectivity business, versus they may have been in healthcare and did the same kind of things. So just make sure you are listening and seeking people with real true capability who can help you build a strong team, because sometimes you can have, you know, decades of experience. But if your experiences are dated, or if you aren't also looking at different ways to um, build your skill, like, look for people who are always constantly learning. Like, I remember somebody asked me the other day, well, I have this this time on my resume where I was not employed, and is somebody going to look bad upon me? They shouldn't, because I know while you were not employed, you did all of this for this community organization. You built their entire website. You went and worked on their business development board. You didn't get paid for it, but you built some real skill while you were helping that community organization. You have to be talking about that as a part of your career journey, because that is you making a difference, making a contribution. So those are the things I really try to get hiring managers to think about, to look at the whole of the individual. Visualize how they talk about working with people, how they talk about leveraging their skill, and visualize how you might be around a screen, because sometimes we're working virtual, or around a table with them, and seeing how they can really help lift your business and lift your results. Those are some of the things I would advise.
I'm gonna pull out a few items in there. Networking, right? Build your network. Don't get thirsty and say, "Oh my God, where's that well at? Give me that shovel." Too late. It's too late, right? And literally grow it, right? And growing it isn't necessarily a numbers game. It could be how you cultivate that network, right? The quality of those relationships. You talked about mentorship. Those individuals that you're bringing in who have that higher math skill, they're mentoring you in an area that you feel like you have a deficiency, right? Until you level up, right? Sponsorship. You talked earlier about Mark and others. Talk about, be at that skill level, be at that productivity level that people are talking about you when you are not in the room. You've touched bases on where I was going to next, so I don't even have to go that route because you already handled it. I will ask you this one last thing before we get you out here. You mentioned, back into that math. I know you have a passion for STEM. Last event we were at, STEM Atlanta Women, their year end. I think Dr. Maxine Kane had you over there, right? And the speech you gave to those young ladies had them ready. I saw them, I had my daughter there. In fact, if I remember, Ariel was there, and
there.
Her being a math major, you having that. Is that where the STEM involvement comes in from? Is where you say, back in the days you would have wanted to. How did that?
Yeah, it's funny, without us even talking about that, you are spot on. So when I was in high school, I was excelling well in math. I had one course where I had a teacher who just at the time probably shouldn't have been their day job, who just didn't support me and sort of had me second guess whether or not I was competent in it. And so it just sort of followed a little bit. And so I've always had this sort of second guessing of, just being an expert in math. But what I've come to appreciate is how math just powers everything. And that's why I love what Dr. Kane is doing with STEM Atlanta. And that's why I'm so supportive of that organization. And just seeing those young women, and that's the space that I'm very passionate about. I wish I had had the support. I wish someone had said, you can do this. This may not be your space in arithmetic, but look how well you did here. Maybe you build depth here and you just make sure you have cursory knowledge around here, but you can still do this, because analytics is everywhere. I don't care, even HR, any business function you are working in, you have got to understand data. You've got to be able to look at trends. You've got to be able to bring insights in to make better decisions, because you can't do everything. And you have to think about trade-offs. Every business leader will tell you that. Well, you got to be powered by analytics. And so there is a passion I have for math and data and technology now, because it's so critical. It's like table stakes. So you can't not like it. Like you just have to lean into it. And so that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I want particularly young women to know that you can do this. You can do it in different ways. Maybe math is not your game, but there's a way you can step into technology and do these things. We need all of these budding scientists. So that is the one thing where I'm like, you know what? I missed that when I was a young girl, but I'm definitely going to lean into it now for all these young girls who can really help us build a better world because they are occupying these spaces in STEM.
You know, he took me to a place just then, right? Because as you were saying that you're good at so many different things. I was on a flight over, I'm in New York right now, right? On a flight over, I was watching Woman King, and the girl was like, "Hey, can you teach me how to make the rope?" And she was like, "No, no, no." And she said, "Why?" I said, "I need one thing that at least I'm better at you," right? And so I'm thinking, they're like, I want to be you didn't say I want to be proficient. You said I want to be an expert in math, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that hopefully people are catching these nuggets, right? Where it doesn't have to be so obvious, but the words, the phrases you use say, I want to be excellent at the things that I aspire to work in and work on. And so when I think back to like I said, those girls getting charged up, it's like, yeah, let's get out there, let's go get it. Because once again, we're seeing somebody who not only from a title position that you have, but also you opened yourself to them. You talked about vulnerabilities that you had. You showed the human side and then wrapped it back around and said, but this is how I grew. And that's leadership.
Thank
That's
you.
the reason why we're having this conversation. That's the reason why I waited a year and change hounding you week after week saying, Miss Payna, Kia, KP, can we get it? Because they need to hear you and understand that greatness, that brilliance. And I am
Thank you.
appreciative. And NAMIC Atlanta, I hope my audience over here, the NAMIC family, appreciates the conversation that we had because it was a long time coming. But this is Sora. Thank you.
That's right. Blue Phi Z Phi. That's right. Thank you, Charles. I just want to thank you again. I mean, I really appreciate everything that you have done with your leadership to really just drive great experiences and content and development for future leaders in our organization. You've done such great work leading NAMIC Atlanta, and I'm just proud to just be a part of it and to be able to get to experience it too. So thank you so much.
Nope. See you later.
All right, take care.